Welcome to Coruzant Technologies, home of the Digital Executive Podcast. Welcome to the Digital Executive. Today's guest is Mathieu Mireault. Mathieu Mireault, co-founder of Dermadry and medical liaison, never originally intended to be an entrepreneur. Mathieu's co-founder, Maxime Kalouche, suffered from hyperhidrosis, which made life difficult growing up, and as a young entrepreneur, his firsthand knowledge helped the company take shape. Maxime approached Mathieu about a new business idea, a machine that helped people with hyperhidrosis, which is excessive sweating. Maxime explained that he'd had it and often felt embarrassed, and he wanted to find a solution that wasn't too expensive or riddled with potential side effects. Then he stumbled upon an iontophoresis machine. The machine was expensive and not available in Canada, so he created his own, and in a matter of days, his lifelong condition was cleared up. Mathieu was blown away by Maxime's enthusiasm for helping people and was immediately on board. He quit his banking job and joined him. Once the Montreal-based company was created, it didn't take long for the co-founders to find success. Well, good afternoon, Mathieu. Welcome to the show.
It's a great and immense pleasure to be part of your show.
Awesome, Mathieu. Thank you so much. And we do appreciate you jumping on, and you're hailing from the great country of Canada, which I certainly appreciate. Again, I get to travel internationally today, or virtually internationally. So I do appreciate that. And Mathieu, we're going to jump right into the questions. We're going to get your story out there to our audience. So you've got quite the career in finance as an entrepreneur and now the co-founder at Dermadry. Could you share with our audience the secret to your career growth and what inspires you?
Absolutely. That's a great question. So before I jumped into business, I studied psychology as a student in university. And people always ask me why I switched between psychology and business, because it seems like such a huge gap. But for me, it's really the continuation of the same branch. And it really responds to the same need to come and help other people. So I guess as you have interviewed thousands of entrepreneurs, everybody knows that a good way to start a business is to find a problem that hasn't been resolved. So for me, a good entrepreneur is first and foremost somebody who's very empathic, somebody who wants to go out and help other people. But when Maxime came and asked me if I wanted to start a business with him to help people who had excessive sweating, and he explained to me to what extent excessive sweating was a huge pain in his life, for me, it was a no-brainer that I needed to go forward and follow this path, because it really responded to my biggest passion, which was to help other people in a way that, of course, would help me also in the path of becoming an entrepreneur. So every day I wake up and I'm inspired by the fact that I am not only fulfilling my dream of building a great business, but also building it by helping other people, which is really an amazing motivation and a great reason to wake up in the morning.
I love that. And at the end of the day, Mathieu, as many guests, hundreds of guests on this show have said that, their passion is what drives them, or a way to help somebody else. Helping out people is really inspires them and helps them grow in their career, in their life, in their business. So I appreciate you sharing that. And so, Mathieu, let's talk a little bit about the pandemic. Now that it's starting to lift, what are your plans for business growth going forward? And will it be any different than, let's say, the last 15 months?
Once again, that's an amazing question. I feel like every entrepreneur has his or her own horror story linked to the pandemic. In our case, we have been working since day one, since the beginning of our business in about 2017. To become FDA cleared. As a Canadian business, this is like the highest achievement that you could obtain as a medical device company. Becoming the FDA for Canadian companies like winning the Stanley Cup, there's nothing more glamorous. So the moment that we obtain our FDA clearance and we're allowed finally to sell in the United States, we go into full lockdown in Canada and in the United States, and it feels like our whole world is crumbling. Because we had the FDA, we hired more employees, we invested a lot into our infrastructure, and it felt like our dream, was falling apart. But funnily, in a strange way, the FDA was the COVID was kind of a blessing in disguise, because people who were at home, and that's the way I feel about it. needed to feel a certain sense of control. So we started noticing that not only that our sales did not decrease in the way that we expected it to decrease, but our sales actually increased drastically because it felt like people were at home, and at least if they could at least, fix this little part about themselves, they felt that they had a bit of control over their health in a period where everything seemed so uncertain. So it really helped us out in numerous ways. We grew drastically. We went from a smaller office and we needed to double the size of the office. And it really helped us understand that we had a massive potential on the international scene. And now that COVID is over, well, we can refocus on certain marketing materials that we needed to let go. So for example, we sell a product that helps people who suffers from excessive sweating of hands, feet, and underarms. So the pains of having sweaty hands is not so important during global pandemic where you stay at home. You're not shaking hands. You're not going to social events, so sweating under your underarms is not so important. And of course, having stinky feet is not so important when you're not visiting friends or family members. So now that the pandemic is over, of course, we're going to start refocusing on marketing material that talks about the pains of having sweaty hands, that talk about the pains of being so embarrassed of your sweaty feet that you are paralyzed and cannot get out of your home. And of course, that talks about the pains of having sweaty underarms and you are stuck wearing black clothes, or you're stuck paralyzed into your social functions or work functions. So that is pretty much one of the main aspects of how we're going to reorient the business. And of course, going to trade shows all over the world. We are so excited to finally be able to travel the world and meet potential partners all across the border.
Thank you for sharing, Matthew. I appreciate that. And, I've talked to some entrepreneurs that they just had launched their product right before the lockdown last year, 2020, and it was such a challenge. And so I appreciate you sharing. And I know that your product's amazing. It's going to help a lot of people be able to really get out and be social bees, right? So I do appreciate that. So Matthew, this is a technology platform publication, and we like to know a little bit about tech. So maybe you could just share something in your tech stack. You're obviously leveraging something, right, to produce a product or medical device like this. Is there anything you might be able to share with us today?
Absolutely. So as a lot of people who come to the show, it's a bit hard to talk about what gives us an edge without giving our competitive advantage to our competitors. But for us, trying to be on the forefront of technology is always about how to reduce the manufacturing price of our machine. We always think about our machine as a solution more than a product. So how does the solution actually help people? But the best way for it to actually help as many people as possible is to know the latest ways to produce a machine and to know the latest technologies that can really reduce the price of the machine. I know like a lot of the people who come on the show right now, we're living into a global supply chain crisis. Certain components, of course, are harder to obtain. And just knowing what alternatives you have, just knowing all the new technologies that exist that can replace other technologies, it gives you definitely a competitive edge on all your competitors. Also, learning about the new technologies, new material, and the latest scientific evolutions or innovations helps you develop new products. So, of course, we're always thinking about new ways to help our patients, help our clients. So, all in all, my biggest recommendations in the world of tech is always stay curious, because that is really the best way to stay ahead of the competition.
Thank you for sharing that. And that is important. And, there's a lot of tools, technologies that are being developed today that are only going to make your product better in the near future. And I know this because I've talked to a lot of technologists and CEOs within the Silicon Valley area that have some amazing things that are coming out. So thank you again, Matthew. So Matthew, last question. We're going to wrap up here. Can you share something from your career experience that would be helpful for those looking to grow their career either in tech, healthcare, or entrepreneurship?
Well, my biggest advice, and that is something that definitely has helped me all throughout my short but very intense entrepreneurial adventure, is to give a meaning to your job. And for me, it's really the best way to go forward. In our case, it is to help as many people as possible to gain control over their lives by helping them control their excessive sweating. When your job has a deeper meaning and a very intense purpose, it makes everything so much more easier, because it makes you easier to get motivated, to be focused, and it makes the lows so much more bearable, because as you may know, having a business is much harder than easier. So I would say maybe 80% of the times, it's, this very intense adventure, and 20% of the time, it's okay. It's like you feel like the tide is a bit slower, but as soon as you feel like things get easier, it just gets, there's a new adventure around the corner. And, that's, of course, that makes it fun. But knowing that you're helping other people makes even the darkest moments of this amazing adventure so meaningful, because you know that your job is to help other people. So when you wake up in the morning and you don't want to go to work, you just need to focus on the meaning of your job, which in our case is helping people. And it really gives you the extra motivation to get up and do your best. So that is definitely something that I would love to share with the other people.
Thank you. And I just love your story. We talked a little bit about that before you got on the show, and how you traversed and pivoted out of your traditional industry, right, in finance, and moved over into the entrepreneur space. So thank you again for sharing. And Matthew, it was a pleasure having you on today, and I look forward to speaking with you real soon.
It was an immense pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. And if ever one of your listeners suffers from excessive sweating, please know that this condition is treatable. You do not need to stay a prisoner of this condition. And if Dermadry isn't the best solution for you, please feel free to talk to your doctor about it, talk to your friends about it, because there's an immense taboo that surrounds excessive sweating. And the best way to find a solution for yourself is to start a dialogue about your condition.
Thank you for sharing, Matthew. Bye for now.